When we first started this podcast back in April, we went to the fine folks at Kia and said, will you sponsor the show? They asked a little bit about the show. They asked a little bit about the type of people that would be listening to the show. They asked how many folks in 90 days you think is going to listen to the show, Darren. I said, maybe 10,000. I was hoping for 10,000. Well, 100,000 plus listeners later, Kia has gotten their money's worth in advertising because they took a chance on you, gospel music lovers. They took a chance on you, gospel music fans that would listen to Southern Gospel News podcast. You may be a driver of another car. You may have had a Honda, a Hyundai, a Nissan. I about said Datsun. They ain't made Datsuns in years. Ford, Chevrolet, GMC, Chrysler. You may have drove another product, but what I want to urge you to do today is take a test drive in a Kia. Will you do that for me? Take a test drive in a Kia. Kia sponsored gospel music concerts for us. They brought in the McCameys to a location. They brought in Jason Crabb, and they're going to continue doing it. Hey, thanks for sponsoring Southern Gospel News podcast, Kia, and thank you for test driving, and checking out the all-new 2018 and 2019 Kias.
Welcome to one of the most listened to music news podcasts in the world, SGNP, with your host, Darren Sutherland. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, artists, and entertainers about their faith, family, and careers. This is information you will not find anywhere else on radio, web, or in a magazine, but only firsthand on SGNP.
Hi, this is Jeff of the Whisnits. What's wrong with living right anyway?
And welcome to SGNP. Darren Sutherland with my co-host from Sevierville, Tennessee, Arthur Rice. Arthur, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Man, this beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. Hey, you know what? A lot of people liked our darkroom conversation that we had last week backstage on Facebook. Yeah. And we get a lot of comments. My buddy David Sams, who, just so you'll know, David is a good guy. He used to be Oprah Winfrey's producer back in the day, and he produces a Christian music show called Keeping the Faith. He's the one that asked who turned off the lights on Facebook when we saw that. He was giving me a hard time. But we were backstage doing that. And what'd you think? What's your thoughts on that?
That was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. All the guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. We don't get to do a whole lot of that.
Really, tons of listeners. So we want to congratulate you guys on tons of listeners for that, and tons of views on Facebook, and all the good fun we had on that. And then yesterday, let's talk about this. I think this was announced yesterday or the day before. You're getting, and I'll let you tell about it because you know a lot more about it than I am, but you're getting presented an award by an organization, I think, this October.
Yes, getting recognized with Jerry Goff, one of my heroes.
Yeah.
As a kind of a lifetime achievement award. I always thought that was, you got those when you died, so I hope that's not a. But I'm very honored. No, I'm joking, but I'm very honored, and Jerry is one of my heroes, and to be chosen to be included in that, I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it.
Arthur, do you feel like, okay, here we go, folks, I'm getting Lifetime Achievement Awards, and I'm not even near ready for retirement yet? I mean, does that shock you at all?
I'll tell you, man, it's amazing how quickly you go from being one of the young guys to one of the old guys. It's amazing, really is. But you know what? It's really encouraging though, because I think, I've been here a long time, and so I've put a lot, into this, and I appreciate the opportunities the Lord has given me, and so that is encouraging.
Arthur, you've been in it for a long time. You've lived, a lot of people would say, and I would say this, and you would agree with this, and you would agree in some senses it is, but in some senses it ain't, because you sacrifice a lot of family time. But you've lived a privileged life being able to sing gospel music. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there is a lot of things that you miss family-wise and things that people take for granted, a lot of times we're usually working or gone or singing whenever most people are off, and so it's kind of hard to have it. Really, it's sacrificed a lot of friendships that you can have over the years, and that a lot of people have, and that's one reason I think most groups are really close, is because we're kind of in our own little bubble, and we have we have our handful of friends that know what we do, and it's just something else, but that's we miss some of that.
But as the clowns on Facebook say, you only work 3 hours a day, so
yeah. Here's the thing.
And you don't have to defend that, man.
Told me, well, here's my pastor told me, said one time he said, he said I would preach for free.
Yeah.
He said what they pay me for is to go to all the meetings and to do all the other stuff through the week. And that's exactly what singing is. I would sing for free.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah. I would sing for free.
Yeah.
It's sitting around, it's loading in, it's loading out, it's the hours you spend on the road, it's the hours you spend in the studio. That's what we get paid for.
Yeah.
It's not the singing. The singing is that's the extra. That's the part that makes everything worthwhile.
Well, to you and the Kingdom Heirs defense, I loved how the fans came back on that little comment on Facebook. And if you hadn't seen it, just go to our Facebook page, Southern Gospel News Podcast. What I'm making reference to is a fella said he had been to Dollywood X amount of times, and they're never there, and they only work 3 hours a day. What could be so hard about your jobs anyway? It's just funny to me, but I just making light of it. But, you do sacrifice. And even though the Kingdom Heirs are performing at home and able to sleep in their own beds every night, you're in the studios. You're doing things like that. When you have to make new recordings, y'all leave there to go to the studio. You've already sang 3 songs in a day. Or you having to sing the next day. It's not an easy thing. And then you miss your kids' ball games at night. A lot of other groups don't even get to see some of their kids play ball because they play on Saturday. Right. Or it's like when we talked to Madison Easter one time when she was in high school. She went to a very prominent school in East Georgia, Lincoln County, who has a big high school football team, and she missed a lot of that her senior year. So people don't really understand the concept. But gospel music's changing. Life in general is changing. I mean, just last week from an industry standpoint, and we're going to have Grant Gibson, the newest member of Karen Peck and New River, coming up in just a second that we're going to talk to about change. But Arthur, I want to talk to you a little bit about change and what you've seen change in not only the gospel music industry, but the music industry since you've been involved. Because truly, my friend, I mean, we could talk about this all day, and we don't have a lot of time, but we'll mention a few things. It was announced last week that Best Buy is no longer selling CDs. Okay, so that means Target and Walmart are right behind. New cars aren't even having CD players in them. I mean, you were in the industry, and Lord, I guess this is why you're getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, when they were pressing albums, or right at the end of the time when they were pressing albums.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you went to, where'd you go to, 8-tracks? Or was that before?
Yeah.
8-tracks,
yeah. 8 tracks and cassettes, and so it's been, then we went to CDs finally, and that we thought everything that it went to, we thought would never make it.
Yeah.
So. But
how? I mean, I know it's different. You're my age, and it's a different world out there now. But
it is, and we're seeing it now. Especially even here at Hollywood, the decline in CD sales. Every day, we were just talking about that yesterday, and how that, now we're selling our albums on flash drives, so that people can actually listen to them in their car, because they can't, like I said, the new cars don't even have CD players, so we have to come up with the other medium to keep them in relevance.
Right.
And so it's a whole other world.
When you talk about relevance, and then we're going to touch on this, then we'll go to our interview. But we at SGNP looked around and we said, you know what keeps some other formats going, but what's missing in the gospel music world? So we've announced, and it'll be released. It's released today. You can go onto our website and see the full chart, what we're calling the Southern Gospel News Podcast Rankings. And what those are, Arthur, is there are social media rankings of when we've done an algorithm between Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and response rankings for the top groups in all of gospel music. And what I mean by that is, yes, there's some in the Gaither camp there. Yes, there's some in the quartet camp there. Yes, there's some soloists there. Yes, there's some mixed family groups there. Yes, there's some even new groups there. But social media is so important now to album sales and to downloads and to the whole digital world. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, when I first started, it was all about FaceTime.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason we did. You know, you had, you know, everybody went to the record table before the program, 2 hours before the program, and we were there, you know, for an hour or so after the program. And during intermission, it was FaceTime with the fans. You know, they wanted to get to know you, and you wanted to get to know them, and spend time with them, and that's how you grew that fan base. And now with social media, that's, you know, it's hard. I'm very guilty of not working social media probably like I should to you know, to promote myself or the group, that sort of thing. You know, I'm kind of a private guy, and I don't that's, you know, it's like my dad said, if you tell all your business, you ain't gonna have no business for long, you know. but it's really it's kind of the opposite for social media. I mean, you really have to put yourself out there, because people want to know who you are. They want to feel like they are a part of your life, and you know, in a big way. So that's you know, it's different. It really is different.
You know, we always say God's timing is perfect, don't we? Isn't that a pretty good thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I believe in some sense God has a sense of humor, Arthur. And when I explain this to you, you're going to laugh. And folks, with my hand up, Wendy Bagwell style, this is the absolute truth. Arthur, an hour ago, I went on our Southern Gospel News Podcast Facebook page, which we started April 6th. And we have tried to gain tons of listeners, and we've got 8,000, right at 7,951 likes. Okay? Wow. So I said before tomorrow, I would like to have 8,000. So here's the post I wrote, Arthur. We need 49 new page likes to reach out to 8,000. Can you please invite your friends over the next 24 hours? The 8,000th member will receive a prize pack from SGNP, Arthur Rice, and the Kingdom Heirs, because you and I talked about you was going to send me some stuff, okay?
Yep.
Your buddy Jeff Chapman chimed in, yep, we'll help you out, Darren. 25 others, yep, we'll help you out. Dawn Easterling, yep, we'll help you out. Sherry Nipper Davis, yes, done, we'll help you out. Harry Sproles. Do you remember that Harry Sproles name by chance, Arthur?
Oh, yeah.
Harry Sproles, the guy we were talking about, said that you only work 3 hours a day, writes on a Facebook page. No way. Can you believe that?
Oh, well. You can't make everybody happy.
That's why I know, Arthur, God has a sense of humor. If you followed along with the story, it's hilarious. Harry, we love you, buddy. Don't we, Arthur? We love you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if he comes to hear the kingdom...
makes the world goes around.
That's right.
Makes the world go round.
Everybody's got an opinion. It's like your buddy said there at the interview. Hey, real quick, I'm going to run down the... a couple of the top. You just pick groups out of a hat, and I'm going to tell you where they ranked on the social media count. Give me 3 groups that just pick them out of a hat. Anybody. This is just off the top of your head. Anybody in the world. I'm going to tell you where they rank on the rankings, and then people can go to the website SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com, southerngospelnewspodcast.com, and they can see the complete rank of the top 40 social media folks. And we'll produce this every month, and who's gaining and who's moving up and the gain. Because here's the deal. If we promote this and we promote every group, it's going to promote the gospel. And every group that promotes their self promotes another group because they're promoting the gospel. And it's like we've always said, it's all about the gospel to begin with.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
Give me three real quick, Arthur.
Let's see. Greater Vision.
Greater Vision. Greater Vision has a tremendous following on Twitter, let me tell you that. But they checked in at number 22. Gerald and the guys turned in at number 22 out of the top 40. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Somebody else.
They're on there. Let's see. Legacy 5.
Legacy 5, a little bit higher than Mr. Gerald Wolf and the guys. They're at number 20. They're at number 20.
Wow.
Yep.
How about that?
Top 20.
How about that?
Yep.
How about that? How about the Hoppers?
The Hoppers, man, you're picking everybody right in the same level. The Hoppers checked in at number 17. Number 17. Some of the folks that surprised me that may not be household names to some of you guys, the Ball Brothers.
Oh, great guys.
Number 4. Number 4. So,
Wow.
Wow.
I don't doubt that. I mean, they really work social media very good, and especially Facebook. They really work that very well. And
yeah. My good friends, the Nealons, come in at 14. Kelly works it as good as anybody. She could write a book on bus troubles, and I think people follow that like they follow the guiding light.
they have had them this year. Bless their hearts. I know. I've been there. I know how that is.
So anyway, but go to southerngospelnewspodcast.com, southerngospelnewspodcast.com, and check out the top 40 social media active groups in all the industry. And if you want to help your group get higher, start following them. Start being more interactive with them on their Facebook page, on their Twitter page, Instagram, and all that kind of good stuff. Wouldn't you agree, Arthur?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the groups you want to push it up. Every concert you have, mention it and push your numbers up. We'll promote them every month as we keep growing this format and keep going.
It just helps everybody.
It really does. It really does, because what happens is, a lot of people don't realize this, when you go to Facebook and you look at the Kingdom Heirs, if you scroll down, it'll show you 3 like groups that are like you. That's saying, it might be triumphant, it may be tribute, it may be the tallies, for instance. But let me throw a couple good things out there for some newer groups real quick. Jordan Family Band checked in at number 27, pretty high for a new group like that. High Road, number 38. So anyway, some
that's
good.
That's great for new groups.
Yep, yeah. Some great stuff. So our friend Ernie Haas at number 5. So we could keep going and tell you all this all day long, but it's like we said, push your social media. Arthur, I'm going to go interview Grant Gibson. I'll come back. Me and you will close
he's a good singer.
Yeah, he's a good singer. We're carrying Peck and New River. Let's take a commercial break. We'll come in and talk to Grant. Then we'll be back. Arthur and I will close out the show right here on SGNP.
Hey, this is Morgan Easter Smith, and you're listening to SGNP.
Hey, this is Darren. Thanks for listening to Southern Gospel News Podcast, brought to you by my friends at MyPillow. You want a great night's sleep like I've been getting, and I can tell you up front, for the past 6 weeks, I've had a brand new premium pillow from MyPillow. 100% made here in the United States, money back guarantee, and it works. Go online, mypillow.com. Call 1-800-338-2330, 1-800-338-2330, and check it out. When you go, enter the code SGNP in the top right hand. Order your products from MyPillow. Tell them Darren sent you with SGNP. Will you do that? It's that simple. MyPillow. I love sleeping on it. There's a lot of other people in gospel music sleeping on them. Arthur talks about how he's got their pillows. I know there's some folks from the Perry that talks about their pillows. 1-800-338-2330. MyPillow. Proud supporter of gospel music and Southern Gospel News Podcast. Remember, use the code SGNP. 100% made right here in the U.S. 100% faith-based Christian company. And welcome to SGNP. Darren Sutherland here with you once again, and joining me. Are you over in Alabama today, Grant? Or are you here in Gainesville, up in Karen's neck of the woods? Grant Gibson.
No, I'm not there yet. I'm still home.
You're
still home, and it's good to be with you, Darren.
Where is home, Grant?
I live in the metro Birmingham area in a little town called Hoover, Alabama.
Well,
and this is home for me.
Saying Hoover's little's like saying Marietta's little, man.
I know. You're right.
Hey, Grant Gibson with Karen Peck and New River, the newest member of Karen Peck and New River, is with us today. He came over from 11th Hour. And Grant, how has your tenure with Karen Peck and New River been? I mean, folks are loving you from everything we're hearing.
Man, it has been incredible. The response from Karen's fan base has been nothing but good. And I've had nothing but good things. One thing, and you like Karen, I love her. She is who she is on stage and off stage on that bus. She's exactly the same. And they're just kind of salt of the earth people, the Gooch family. They're great.
Now, you follow in a long line of great singers from Mr. Rousey to Mr. Montgomery. Yeah. You know, so many good singers with Karen Peck over the years. Is it, and let's be honest, I mean, you've listened to our show, so, you know, we just get kind of the blunt to it. Is it tough?
Yeah.
Is it tough being an outside guy going into a family group like that?
It's different. It's a different dynamic. Coming from a group that, you know, none of us were related to, a group that's all family really, except for me and the guy that drives the bus. It's different, but it's honestly, they do everything they can to make me feel a part of the family. So, you know, as far as that goes, that part's not really been that big of a challenge.
Yeah, I don't think any of our listeners would expect anything different from Karen, because she's always been a sweet person, no matter if I've talked to her on the air when we've talked to her or if we talked to her off the air. The biggest problem we've always had with Karen is getting a word in edgewise. Do you get a word in edgewise on the bus? I'm just giving her a hard time. I've got to do that for my buddy Todd Nealon. He says Karen never gave him a word in edgewise. But we love her. We're giving her a hard time. But let me ask you this: working with Karen, you're working with somebody, and not only is she such an icon in the Southern gospel music world, but everybody in the Christian music world knows her from even outside the Christian world, from being in movies and stuff like that. Let's say you're out on the road or something like that. Do people ever just walk up to her and say, "Hey, I know you, but I can't remember where from," and different things of that nature?
Oh, it is every week. I'm not even kidding you. And I think, and you know this too, one of the things that makes Karen so special is just that she's real. She gets on people's level, where they're at. It's just about every weekend where she'll stop and pray with somebody, or, you know, and it's just little things like that make her that fan favorite. And, you know, Christ just kind of shines through her.
Nice. We'll finish our conversation about Karen right here, and I'm going to give you one chance. Tell us something nobody knows about Karen unless you ride the bus with her, that the fans would think was funny or the fans would want to know, that's even interesting.
That's even interesting. That's a good question. I have never met anybody in my life that loves Diet Mountain Dew like Karen Peck. So if you want to be her friend, you just, you know, bring a case of Diet Mountain Dew to our next concert, and you will be friends for life. Well, how about that?
Well, my producer Jonathan loves Karen because he loves Diet Mountain Dew, don't you, Jonathan?
Yeah.
I like the straight stuff.
Anyway, thank you for that. Okay, we've talked about Karen. You're with one of the best groups in the industry. Tell everybody a little bit and introduce folks that have never met you, because how long have you been on the road with Karen? Tell folks about Grant Gibson.
Sure. You know, honestly, Darren, my story is a little different. I was introduced to gospel music when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't really grow up being around gospel music at all. And my first concert, some friends of our friends that went to church with us, invited us to go see Gold City at their homecoming over in Gadsden, Alabama. And honestly, man, I was hooked. And I had no idea how in the world to get up on that stage, but I knew that night that I said, I want to do that. God, if it's in your will for my life, that's what I want to do. And I just kind of started singing. I started singing at my church, and here in the Birmingham area, a guy named Wayne Wallace used to have a program. It's still going called the Dixie Gospel Caravan. And he had Bill Gaither on one night. And Bill said, if there's any aspiring young gospel singers out there, you need to attend Ben Spears' Stamps Baxter School of Music. And that's exactly what I did. And I just started plugging in and meeting people. And I went to Liberty University, like I said. And after I graduated, I started singing locally with the regional group up in Dahlonega called Jaden's Call. And
Deborah Perry.
From there, God just started. Yeah, Deborah Perry, Libby Perry's sister. And from there, God just started opening up doors. And I started going to the National Quartet Convention and meeting all these people. And I met a family called the Epinets and 11th Hour. And God opened up that door and spent 5 years with them. And man, we just saw some really, really cool things. Had 5 #1 songs. Got on every big gospel, promoted event in the country just about. And did some really, really great things. And honestly, over the past, 5 months or so, I felt like God was leading me in a different direction and didn't know what that would be. And sure enough, Ricky Brady put in his resignation with the group with Karen Peck. And once again, I said, God, if this is what you want me to do, I'll kind of walk through this door, and it's not, you just close it. And he opened it up, and it's been a few months, and here I am. That's it in a nutshell. Hey,
man, let me ask you this question. How old are you? I kind of got an idea, but I want our listeners to know how old you are, Grant.
Yeah. I'm 32 years old, so I do not qualify for the youth and gospel.
You do not qualify for youth and gospel. But here's what I want to ask you, because you're in that age range. There appears, when you look at it, between about 30 and 40, unless you're a legacy singer, meaning unless your family was involved in the gospel music world, there's a plethora, an emptiness of performers between that age. And it's not that folks that age don't love the Lord. It's that they chose a different route to go in their Christian music career, whether it be contemporary, whether it be traditional, whether it be praise and worship. What kept Grant? You've got a great voice. Let's face it. We all know gospel music performers are not living in $1 million mansions. We all know you're not flying Lear jets, okay?
Right.
You may get to take a trip in Mr. Gaither's jet one day, but we're not, for the most part, flying Lear jets. What kept you silent? I mean, you went to a great Christian university, Liberty University. There's some great contemporary singers out there. What kept Grant in line to sing Southern gospel music, opposed to moving over to contemporary or another art form of Christian music?
Honestly, just a love for the music. I love what I do, and I just love this genre of music. Now, I listen to all sorts of different music, and contemporary, all this stuff is great, but it's what I love.
Yeah.
I think that's it in a nutshell. Because even when I was at Liberty, I got a full ride and was there. They have ministry teams, and I was there. And honestly, I had to sing contemporary music for 4 years.
Yeah.
But this has always kind of been my heart, and I love what I do. I'm telling you.
Who are some of the folks outside of gospel music? And I asked this to everybody that I interviewed. Did this with the Kingdom Heirs last week, and Jerry Turner talked about Steve Perry. Who with Journey was his influence? Who are somebody? Who are some folks outside of Christian music that you look at and you say, "Wow, they're awesome"?
I love music from the 70s and 80s, and as far as right now in country, I like Chris Stapleton. I love his sound. It's kind of like old school, really. It's not like this modern pop country that's very popular.
Yeah.
Love him. I think somebody mentioned on one of your podcasts, Michael Bublé, man, he's phenomenal. Seen him. So I'm kind of all over the board. I like listening to a lot of different genres of music because everybody's different. Everybody's style's different, and I love that.
Yeah. Do you find that youth coming along today that are jumping into the gospel music world, do you find that they're bringing a more progressive sound to the music and the music is changing, or do you think they're staying more with the standards? Because I'll just be frank with you. When you listen to Karen, as Karen has grown as an artist, her music has gotten a little more progressive, and which is great because I think it grows the genre of music. Do you think the younger folks are even going to push that further like Karen has done and like Jason Crabb and the Booth Brothers have done? Or do you think folks like that more traditional hardcore sound? What are you seeing out there on the road, and what are you hearing from people?
That's a good question. Everybody brings something different to the table.
Mm-hmm.
What Karen's going to do in a concert is not the same thing that the Inspirations are going to do or somebody like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we all bring something unique. And kind of like you said, man, we see a lot of young people in our concerts.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing. That's not a bad thing. And I'm a fan of this podcast, and I've listened to you talk about the Primitives. I love the Primitives.
Yeah.
And what they bring, and God gives us each our own sound, and I think that's good to be different.
Yeah, it is.
There's nothing wrong with being different. I think you used the word, broadening the audience,
mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what we got to do to make this thing grow and be successful. And I'm all for it, man.
Cool. You're 32 years old. We've already talked about that, and I keep mentioning that because, quite frankly, you're younger than most gospel music fans, okay? So I bring that up for two reasons.
Sure.
But you're also living in a very transient time and period in this world as we're going from we're going into what we call, we're there for the most part. We're leaving the CD generation, and we're moving into the digital generation. You've studied music. You knew what was happening 5 years ago before a lot of people do. If you haven't heard, folks, and you're listening to a podcast, which kind of would shock me, Best Buy is not even selling CDs anymore, okay? If your music's not available digitally, you're probably not even going to be printing CDs in the next 3 to 5 years. It's just not going to happen. Somebody will, but it's kind of like making 8-tracks or tape cassettes. Where are you going to play them if you got them? Where do you see the music going, Grant? Where do you see the growth of the music and how it's going to grow?
Well, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but
the reason I ask you is
right.
Not because I don't know. It's because I want
Right.
our listeners to hear it firsthand from an artist that's on the road every single day that's dealing with it.
Right, and people are still buying products, still buying CDs.
Yeah.
But things are headed towards more, and this is not just music, by the way. This is the way people get information. Period.
Yeah.
Is everything's quicker. Everything is they want it now, and streaming is kind of where everything's headed. And by the way, I think there's going to be ways to make money with streaming, with digital downloads.
Mm-hmm.
With proper legislation and everything like that. We're not going to get into all of the logistics of that, but everything's with Apple Music and Spotify and all these different services. That's kind of the way my generation gets their entertainment and their from movies on Apple TV to music on Apple Music, and that's just kind of how it is. And whether you like it or not, that's just kind of where it's headed.
Yeah.
And we've got to be ready to meet that and be all that stuff. So hopefully that answers that question.
It does. I look at it as a two-edged sword, and you tell me if I'm correct here. Number one, you can now market to places like one of the biggest shocks to us when we started this podcast was our following in Ireland. And I know you guys are going to Ireland coming up in September, August, September, October, sometime like that. I forget. But when we saw how many downloads we're getting in Ireland, by going in the digital age, it allows you guys to market to different parts of the world that formerly you were, for financial reasons, were restrained to maybe the Southeast, the Midwest, the Northeast, and an occasional trip out west. Now you can afford to be somebody's favorite group that lives in California or lives in Cambodia, and the cost for them to download a song is better. You know, our show's listened to all over the world.
Right.
We see missionaries listening to our show. We hear people listening to our show. We're all over the world. How important is it to you guys to make sure that your social media is done right, that people are paying attention to you guys, that your promotion's done right, that your pictures are done right, to everything? I mean, you've got people going to every concert, taking, videos of you guys singing of everything you've done. How conscious are y'all if you stick your finger in your ear the wrong way, somebody's taking a picture of it and putting it out there? I mean, because let's face it, that's the world we live in. How conscious are y'all a group of noticing that kind of stuff?
Anytime you get on Facebook, you're liable to see a bad picture of yourself singing from the last weekend. That is just how it is, and they'll tag you in it. You know what I mean? But
do you as a group talk about that? Do you as a group talk about that? I mean,
no, that's never really come up. In my few months that's been there, but we definitely try to keep a pretty heavy online presence and social media presence. We do Facebook Live videos every week.
Yeah,
and you mentioned something about, as far as worldwide, and you look at numbers and statistics, and that's something that I've noticed too. You can look at these numbers on Spotify and different things. Man, we have a following all over the world, in Europe, some in Africa, which I'm sure, missionaries and Christians there. And that's really neat. And that just shows you the potential, kind of what we were just saying about where everything is headed.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really cool.
Who are some of your favorite gospel music performers coming up in life? You mentioned Gold City earlier, but who's some of the folks Grant Gibson looked up to before you got really started and really going?
My favorite group is the Happy Goodman Family, and I collect LPs.
Yeah.
I probably don't have as much as Charlie Sexton, but I've got a little collection, and that's probably my favorite group is the Happy Goodman Family.
Yeah.
And I love the Kingsmen too. The old live Kingsmen albums are some of my favorite.
The best album I've ever heard, and I'll tell you what it is. And I'll tell Arthur this, and I don't know if you've ever heard it. Mississippi Live by the Kingsmen. That's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best album I've ever heard. The best live album I've ever heard. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, that was a good lineup too.
Yeah.
But I love those old LPs and those groups, man. Rusty Goodman is one of my favorite singers. Just smooth, stage presence, all of that's just great. And I've had a lot of people, even in the that are in the industry now that have just encouraged me along the way. So I don't want to start naming folks, but we've got a lot of great singers that are singing now.
Yeah. I asked Arthur this, and I asked Charlie this. Who's the showstopper right now? Who does gospel groups look at as a whole, and when they start to sing, people just stop and say, wow?
That's a good question.
Or do we not have a showstopper now and we need one, so to speak? Because the reason I asked that, there once was a time when you mentioned earlier when Vestal walked out on stage and Vestal started to sing, anything she started to sing. But there were certain songs and certain things she would start to sing, people would stop in their tracks. When Arthur would hold that line out on a place where hungry are fed by the Kingsmen, people would stop. When Ivan Parker would start Midnight Cry, people would stop. When George Johnson would do This Old House, people would stop. When Archie Watkins did When I Wake Up to Sleep No More, people would stop. Let's make it an easier question. When Karen starts singing a certain song, what song is it that makes people stop?
Oh, that's
night after night.
that's 4 days late, man. To this day, I think that song is 18 years old.
Yeah.
And to this day, when we start doing 4 days late, it's kind of like the atmosphere in the room changes. You know what I mean? It's just such a special and anointed song that people still love it. But who I think is who's doing a fantastic job right now is Joseph Habedank.
No doubt.
When he sings, I listen. I think he does a great job, and he's got some great material, and he writes his own music. And God's just really, really blessing him.
It's funny. You're not the only artist that said that to us over and over. We keep hearing that over and over and over about Joseph. We got to get him on the show real soon. He's doing a tremendous job and doing a tremendous job. Man, we're running late on time, but I got to ask you this right here. What do you want folks to know about Grant Gibson that maybe I haven't asked, or what do you want to tell folks about yourself? I know a lot of folks say, I don't brag on myself. What do you want to tell folks about Grant that they need to know?
Honestly, at the end of the day, I know that I'm probably not the best singer in the world, but when it's all said and done, man, I just want to be found faithful.
Yeah.
That I've done what God has called me to do, and if I'm doing this 5 years from now, 10 years, 30 years, that I've given it my best, and I've been faithful to what God's called me to.
Well,
that's it.
Am I wrong? Did I do my homework? Are you engaged? Are you dating? What was the situation?
Yeah, dating. yeah.
Oh man, I done messed up talking to a 32-year-old man whether he's engaged or not. I shouldn't have done that, man. I'm sorry. I put the cart before the horse. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
So.
No, dating a great girl. She's great, and things are going really good there.
Good, man, good. Well, I'll mail you some brides magazines to put at your house and lay on the coffee table and stuff like that. I gotta pick at you, man. I wouldn't be daring if I didn't pick at you. All right,
that's right. Yeah.
Well, buddy, I appreciate your time this afternoon. I love your heart. I love what you say about it, and I love your loyalty to the music because you know an awful lot about it. You know the history. You've got a great voice. I think you're downplaying yourself. Don't ever be that person in church again, Grant. I'm going to tell you this right here. If I give you a lesson, that say I might not be the best singer, because you've sat and heard them people get up and say, well, we're not the best of singers, but we just don't want to do what God would have us to. Well, sit down. That's what God would have them do, some of them. Man, all the
you're going to get us both in trouble there.
I know I'm going to. But anyway, buddy, we appreciate it, my friend. All righty? We'll talk to you soon.
Enjoyed it.
We are the three Heath brothers from Thomasville, North Carolina. What's wrong with living right anyway?
SGNP is brought to you by Toccoa Falls College in Toccoa Falls, Georgia. For more information on TFC, call 706-886-7299 or visit them online at tfc.edu. That's tfc.edu. Since 1907, TFC, glorifying God through seeking and developing leaders who will impact the world for Jesus Christ.
Great interview with my buddy Grant Gibson. Karen Peck in New River. Grant Arthur, I think, was glad to talk today because he said when he rides the bus, he don't get to talk that much. So.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
You know, one thing that amazed me about Grant was at Liberty University. He told us he sang in their praise team and sang a lot of contemporary music, but he collects old albums, and we've talked about the change from old to new. Our historian, Charlie, we could sit here and do a whole show, and Charlie could tell you, Charlie just came back from Nashville from doing a Redback convention up there, but we could sit and tell stories about old albums that Charlie has, old albums that I have. I've got a lot of old ones. But Arthur, do you still got a lot of old albums from back in the day?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, it's funny. What's funny is, you know, I collected when I was his age. You know, I was collecting old albums. I love, and it's coming back around.
Yeah.
Now all these young guys, you know, or young kids are collecting old albums again. You know, because they're realizing that it's the music was just incredible. You know, it transcends time.
Yeah.
And the music does. And so even though, you know, it may be groups may be 60 years old. It's the style and the music that transcends that time.
I got to tell you something real funny. My good friend Rollo Green is friends with Melvin Cloud, the Cloud Indian family.
Uh-huh.
And Rollo told me a story once where he was at an auction. It was a collector's auction because he collects albums or something like that. It was Rollo or somebody. It may not have been Rollo. But anyway, Rollo, I'll just use Rollo as an example. Rollo said that a Cloud Indian album came up for auction, and it went for $1,200 at auction. And somebody told Melvin Cloud that, and Melvin said, I've got a whole box of them if they want to buy the rest of them. What's some of your favorite old albums that you've got in your collection, Arthur?
Well, I got a ton of Statesman albums. They were just phenomenal. Their arrangements and things were just so phenomenal and so ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And even now they're ahead of their time. I mean, some of that stuff, we do those now and people just sit there and look at you like a calf looking at a new gate. But I love it. And they were singers. Them Blackwood Brothers, old Kingsman, Florida Boys. I love the old Florida Boys and stuff.
Yeah.
And just I've got just a bunch of old records. I love them.
I do too. You mentioned the Statesman. I'm a huge Hovey fan because not only was Hovey, Hovey, for lack of a better word, and I'm going to say this, and I can say this because, folks, Hovey was a personal friend of mine. And there goes that train. It's always about this time. That means Arthur's got to go when the train sounds.
It's almost showtime.
It's almost showtime when the train goes. That's a great thing. But here's what I know. There we go. Petticoat Junction. Here we go.
Every time.
Here is what was great about Hovey. And if anybody in gospel music can learn something about Hovey, Hovey wasn't the greatest piano player. He was a good piano player.
Yeah.
Hovey wasn't the greatest singer. He was a good singer.
Yeah.
But what Hovey was Hovey was the greatest arranger of talent and one of the greatest, along with your mentor Jim Hamill, that ever walked the face of the earth as an MC. And that's what set him apart. So take what you do well as a performer or a singer or whoever you are and put the best around you and you'll succeed. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Buddy, I know you got to go when that train whistle goes. That means it's showtime and you've got to work one of your 3 hours today. So, Harry, we love you. Okay? Harry, we love you. Do we not love him, Arthur?
Absolutely.
If Harry comes to see you, Arthur, will you give him something and I'll pay for it? How's that sound?
You got it.
All right, my friend. Arthur, what's wrong with living right anyway?
Not one thing.
All right, we'll talk to you, my friend. Look to the rankings. Look, everybody go to SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com, SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com, our official website. Find the rankings for social media's top 40 gospel music groups, and I think you're going to be surprised. Then go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and start interacting with your favorite groups. They love it. They want to hear from you, and they want your rankings. You've been listening to SGNP. We'll talk to you next week.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com. And remember the Kia Summer Nights concert series, all 100% free, coming to a town near you. For more information on the concert series or to advertise your products, services, concert event, or new project on SGNP and reach a 100% guaranteed number of people in your area, call Tim Newton at 770-874-3200 or email him today, tnewton@bgadgroup.com. Let us geo-target our ads for you, something radio nor magazine can do.